When it comes to life in general, and especially emergency situations, sometimes you have to be prepared for a pivot. And that is what today's talk is all about. I'm Mira
Right.
Desi. I'm known as the ingredient guru, and I teach about holistic nutrition and lifestyle. I specialize in gut health, and I also happen to teach about preparedness. And today I'm here with my friend, Dr. Robert Fuentes. Hey, how are you?
Hi, Mira. Hi. Good morning. Thanks for having us. Have your cup of coffee with me this morning.
Yes, cup of tea. So why don't you give us a little snippet about you, and then we're just going to dive into that conversation we were having before we turned on the recording.
Right. So, I mean, it really, and everywhere we meet, we always strike up that conversation, right? We have the conversations and it just kind of goes. So, hey, this is the perfect place. And we've talked about many things. We were talking about season right now, Hurricane Beryl, kind of barreled through southeast Texas. And how's everything on your end?
So I'm very fortunate. We had no major damage at our house, so that's good. A lot of trees down in our area, and there've been a lot of road closures. My husband and I, having been through this situation more than once in the past, we do have a generator, and we also have a whole house water filter. Fortunately, water is, according to the Water Authority, water is safe, but it's always a good idea to have a water filtration system in place if you need
That
it.
is true. How's
How
the
about
family?
you? How are things? So family's good. Our daughter and her extended crew are without power, and luckily no damage to the house, damage to property. And so we're able to take them in, which is really great.
Yeah, being prepared. I mean, you can never be prepared enough, huh?
Yeah,
You prepare for
absolutely.
yourself, but what about the people that show up, seeking shelter, and we're not going to keep them out, but maybe we're prepared for ourselves, but not for that extra. So I think that's what we're going to expand on today, especially bringing that holistic approach, the
Mhm.
wellness coaching that we can, these tips and little snippets of information so that people can be better prepared in times like these. And even though we live in hurricane, um, uh, you know, hurricanes hit this part of the country, and folks that follow your casts might live throughout the United States. It's different from everybody. You said mudslide. I'm like, yeah, mudslide, but what else? So the tornadoes. Um, it's
Yeah,
just
there's no area of the country that doesn't have something, and it doesn't all happen at the same time of year. We used to live in the Northeast, blizzards. You can get locked into your house because you can't get out because the roads are closed. There's 3 feet of snow outside, an ice storm, whatever. It's not safe to be outside. There are certainly big storms. Look at Hurricane Sandy. I mean, hurricanes don't just hit Hurricane Alley down here. That one went all the way up the east coast of the United States and
yes.
delivered a hammer blow to the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. There's there are forest fires, there are mudslides, there's floods, there's earthquakes, there's everything. And I think it's really important for people to be aware of what's going on in their natural area, and then also to be prepared either to shelter in place, or if you have to be able to leave.
So that's what today's meeting is mainly about, and giving that holistic approach to prepare better. People that
Mhm.
have to follow certain diets, people that have to with certain chronic conditions that they have to tend to. That's what the conversation is going to be about. So, who am I? My name is Robert Fuentes. I'm a foreign trained physician. I studied medicine in Mexico City. I'm graduated in 2004. I'm a foreign medical graduate. I am ECFMG certified. I work in the United States. I am the coordinator for JR Medical and Aesthetic Clinic. That's in Katy, and at Ideal Clinic Harwin over here. We're in the Sharpstown district. What used to be Sharpstown Mall, behind that Harwin, that is where the other clinic, and that's where we're transmitting today from, Ideal Clinic Harwin. So I am a certified holistic health practitioner. I am actually board certified doctor of naturopathic medicine by the American Naturopathic Medical Certification Board, member of the NANP, a member of the American Naturopathic Medical Association and Complementary Alternative Holistic. Yeah, name it. I'm also faculty at Smithwood Medical Institute and Houston Christian University. I teach the EKG program. But right now I'm dealing with power outages at the house, no power, and you know, it's just the grid's like that. I'm not complaining. I mean, it's just things that happen, right?
Yeah.
You know, I was born and raised in Tomball, Texas, by the way. So I am I'm used to this. I'm not afraid of hurricanes. It's just the aftermath that really is
Yeah.
just that big question mark. What's going to happen after, you know, this hurricane pummels through wherever it's going to go, whether you're on the tail end or the full force of it. It's what happens after. So we got flooding, we've got trees completely ripped out of the ground. And that's something that in the north part of the country, you know, because of the water supply, those roots have to go deep. But here
Yeah.
in the southeast, and you know, we've got so much water that the root system is really not, is really superficial.
Yeah.
So when these gusts of wind, they just knock over anything, right? I mean, you live in a place that's called woodlands, so
Well, and
uh,
it's not even that the tree comes down. That's bad enough. You have a 40, 50 foot tree that's, you know, huge and it comes down. There's a lot of damage in the way. Because those roots are so shallow, it tends to peel up all the dirt as well. And then you can rip up fences, sidewalks, foundations, those kinds of things, depending on what's coming through. I mean, it is a challenge. And even more than that, I think one of the startling things that we're seeing now, and I certainly got the weather reports from this as we were going through Beryl, is that the storms are getting worse. And this time there was a warning that it was spawning some tornadoes, which is this area is not known for, but is,
well, speaking of tornadoes, we had a tornado about a month ago that
yes,
ripped through Katy, in
yeah,
particular where the other clinic's at. We were out of power for a while and also had some flood streets and tree
mhm,
limbs everywhere. And just, you know, it's just, that's the aftermath of these natural disasters, but it's natural. I mean, we know it can happen to anybody in any given place. But, you know, hurricane season, we know it started June 1st, and I think it's up until November 30th. So we're right kind of starting that season. And, you know, the weathercasters have said that this might be a very intense season.
yeah, well, part of the challenge is this is a La Nina year, and that changes the water. And water is warmer during a La Nina. And so that means that we're getting warmer water means stronger storms. Plus, they're predicting more named storms this year than usual. And
Gosh.
the more storms there are, and not all of them are guaranteed to hit, and not all of them are guaranteed to turn into hurricanes. It's once they become a tropical storm, they get a name. And then what happens from there? You know, I think one of the most important things that people can do, though, is to be aware of the fact that this is going to happen. Ignoring it is not going to stop anything. And to think about, what do you need to have on hand at home: food, water, light, safety, and communication. Have a communication plan, you know?
Absolutely correct. Whether you want to abide by the authorities' recommendations to evacuate, or you want to write it out, you know, it really comes down to that. Are you prepared for that? Because maybe we can be, you know, some people find this hurricane season to be, oh, hurricane's coming, it's fun, you know, it's just, what are we going to do? Where's our control, our panic room, right? Where's our, a lot of people venture into that, but if you're going to write it out, I mean, you better be prepared, and you need to understand that, you know, because of the potential for loss of life, um, you have to be prepared. I mean, sobering information that we might give today. Uh, I mean, we've done numerous podcasts with in other languages for other radio stations and things, but basically we talk about things like grabbing a Sharpie. If you're going to write it out, you know, a Cat 4, Cat 5, uh, get a Sharpie and write your name on a limb and a phone number, just in case you're found. So that, I mean, it's actually because, oh, I've got it in my wallet. Well, your wallet's gone. Maybe your pants were ripped
Yeah.
off. It's just craziness.
And I'm going to share that I'm not a fan of writing it out. I feel like if you're being ordered to evacuate, it really is best to evacuate. And in our area in Texas now, they instituted, I think it was after Hurricane Ike, they instituted something called contraflow, where they open up the opposite side of the highway so that they can get as many people out. And part of the reason I know people want to stay in place. They're like, this is my home. I just want to be here. Some people are in it for the adventure. Ooh, a storm, like that's great. But one of the biggest challenges with writing it out, if you've been ordered to evacuate, is you're putting somebody else's life at risk. Because if you're all of a sudden up on a rooftop because the floodwaters rose so high, and then emergency services have to come get you, you're putting somebody else at risk. And so it's much better to be prepared to leave if you are being ordered to do so. Like that's just my 2 cents, because I also don't want people to, let's be honest, if a hurricane's coming through, if storm waters are coming through, if there's fire that got sparked because of downed electrical lines or whatever, your stuff is toast anyway. So it's better to be more attached to this corporeal, you know, being and be safe than to worry about your furniture and your things. Like if there are things that are important to you that you can get in your car, learn how to grab them and go.
Your priorities have to be in check, especially in a moment like these. But basically, you're absolutely right. First responders will not respond because they also have family members, they also have conditions, they have people they have to take care of, pets. A lot of these people have to leave. Now, you want to take things to the extreme a bit when you think about, should I stay, should I go? Number one is, when a hurricane forms, they're giving you about a week in advance information to, oh, hey, there's a tropical storm alert that's becoming or likely going to become. So right there, this kind of, the bells are ringing. Hey, something's up. If
Yeah.
if you choose to write it out, and of course, but let me back up. As soon as that alert comes out, you better believe Sam's, Costco, all these other places, water's going to be out.
Mhm.
Toilet paper, you gotta have your toilet paper, right? Toilet paper, all of these sanitary items, they batteries, flashlights. That is not a time to prepare, and that's why it's very important to have that checklist and maybe speak with family members, like hopefully in
Mhm.
your case. Hey, what should we do in case of? Who's the one right now? I have neighbors that are going on their roofs. They
Yeah.
probably have the aluminum cap on, little trying to get signal in certain places just to notify family members, next to kin, folks. Hey, I'm okay. I just got property damage. I don't have power, but I am okay.
Yeah.
Social media is a great place to do that, post that if you have a chance to. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And also keep in mind, again, thinking to extreme, you don't know if people are waiting to loot your property. And then if you don't have law enforcement, you have to be prepared in so many ways. It's just, and it's, again, if you want to be selfish and think of, oh, I'm going to write it out, but I'm also going to let little Tommy and Gina write it out with me. You have to take other people's needs in consideration before making such an important decision not to evacuate when you've been
Yeah.
suggested, mandated to do so. But
Well,
yeah,
and I'd like to back up just a second. You talked about the fact that, yeah, usually we have days. We know it's forming, we know it's coming because, I feel so bad for them, but it typically hits the Caribbean first and then hops over to us. So we know it's coming. It's not like rarely does it come out of nowhere.
yeah,
That is the time to make sure that your car is full of gas and
right.
that you maybe have one or two extra gas cans. And I regularly share with people that you should never, ever, ever let your car get below a half a tank. It does not cost you more to run your car down to the dregs and fill it up. As a matter of fact, it's safer because you can get away further. And I will share that immediately after the storm, if power's out, gas stations cannot deliver fuel. So if you don't have any, you're out. The other thing is that they may not get resupplied. And so all of a sudden on social media, someone's like, oh, I just discovered this gas station has fuel. And the next thing you know, there's a huge line because everybody's in line. If you had to leave and you only had a quarter of a tank or you're on fumes, you're not getting very far. So once you know, again, I encourage you to always not go below a half a tank. However, even if you always stay at half a tank or more, if you know a storm is coming, that is the time to make sure that your tank is always full and even have one or two extra gas cans so you can get a little bit further. And then the other thing to keep in mind is it is going to cost you a lot more afterwards. There typically tends to be a surge in fuel prices after a storm only because it's not as available. The tankers can't get through. I remember, I don't remember which storm it was, but there was one storm where it actually took out the platforms out in the ocean. So they couldn't deliver fuel. And all of a sudden, what's left, the prices go up. So it's really important to do that. And then when it comes to talking about how we're going to be mindful of the needs of our family members and our pets and everything else, I really encourage people to literally document it. If you need medication, write down what it is, make sure you have enough. If your pet needs certain specialty care, make sure you have it. Like this is where, you know, sadly as humans, we have the attention span of goldfish, man. We like this storm is happening right now and where we are, there's a lot of people who are really struggling. When it's over, they're going to forget. We can't forget. We need to remember and we need to prepare. That's why, you know, my family over the years, we've been through so many storms and so much issue. Even like here in Texas, remember the great snowpocalypse of 2021, the entire power grid shut down? Like that's why we have a generator. But right now, in the aftermath of Beryl, I promise you, not a single store for 100 miles around has a generator because everybody ran out to buy one. You need to
Yeah.
get it in advance.
Yeah. Get them in advance when the time is right. These are not times to procrastinate, really. I mean, this can be potentially life-threatening. It affects the quality of your life and those that you love the most. Because it's not like you're gonna ride it out yourself or you're going to flee yourself. You have to account for your children, your fur babies, if you have animals, and also those that have chronic conditions, maybe people that are handicapped or they just limited mobility. You have to account for that. And so yeah, vehicle has to be ready. Gas is excellent. I mean, what cash? Keep some cash with you. You need to have
Small bills,
currency.
cash in small bills.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
like stock up on hundreds because you're not going to get very far.
You're gonna be
Um,
leaving very good tips.
yeah, right.
You're gonna
Well,
leave.
and the other thing to keep in mind, like I remember when Hurricane Ike came through, learning about this for the first time. And Hurricane Ike was back in 2008. And my family's been through a lot of hurricanes over the years, starting, you know, back in the 80s. You know, as an adult, as a young adult, when I was first learning about that. So if your power's out and you have a generator that doesn't power your whole house, you can rotate what you do. So it's like, okay, we're going to cool the fridge and the freezer for an hour, and then we're going to do air conditioning for an hour, and then we're going to do other things that need power for an hour, but you can rotate it through. If you have no power and no generator, do not open doors, like leave them closed as much as possible. But if after 24 hours, like things in your freezer are frozen solid, but they are eventually going to thaw. And so that's where you consider going in. Like I remember some neighborhood barbecues where everybody just brought out all their stuff and we had a huge barbecue because once it's cooked, you can put it back in the freezer with a bag of ice if you can get ice because cooking will help extend it just a little bit longer. You know, and again, these are skills that we all need to learn. We've gotten so complacent about, oh, sure, we've got power. Oh, sure, we can I mean, especially right now for communication too, a lot of people don't have landlines anymore. So if your cell's out, what do you do?
This storm took out cell towers, and that's what's really affecting. And obviously with that, the Wi-Fi goes also. Even though you have a hotspot, you don't have cell signal, you're not going to have internet. You're not
Yeah.
going to have the Wi-Fi. So yeah, all of these are just kind of things that we've heard over and over again. It's just maybe bringing a little different twist to it.
Mhm.
And these are the things that we need to talk to with our families when we have that family reunion. Hey, just let's talk for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Where's that safe zone or evacuation route? Where are we going to meet? Are we going to go parallel to the storm? Are we going to go perpendicular to it? I mean, it's just all of these things should be talked about. Have phone numbers, because now we store phone numbers on the phone, but we don't know phone numbers. It's like I can tell you, recite my father's phone number when we were growing up, in my old house phone number, but I can't do it right now because everybody has a number and it's all
There's
stored
too
in
many numbers
our
to
phone.
keep track of.
Right.
Absolutely.
And what
And
if,
the
again,
other,
if you're running out, go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing to keep in mind too is if your house is the place that everybody is going to come to, or if you are going to somebody else's house, to think about water. Water is huge. We can go without food for days if we have to, but man, without water, we don't last very long. And the recommendation is 1 gallon of water per person per day. And that is for drinking and for a little bit of cooking, or washing your food if you need to. And a pet counts as a person.
Yeah.
So if there's 4 people and 2 pets in a house, that's 6 gallons of water per day. You have to figure out how you're going to do that, and either bring it with you. There are a couple of devices that I like that are water containers. There's one in particular that actually has a built-in filter. So if the water is dirty, it can filter that water and make it safe to drink. But to think about is, are people coming to you? How many people are you anticipating? How much water do you need on hand? Or how much water do you have to be able to procure from somewhere and filter? Or are you bringing it with you? And then what are you going to do? So that's really important too.
Right, right. But also, it's just so many things that we can plan in advance and just kind of maybe not put it on yourself. You can delegate these things to other adults. Hey, you can get the water. And for how long, Mira? How many days should we
Yeah,
store the
great
water?
question. Great question. So generally the guideline is if you're leaving your home, they recommend that you bring 3 days worth of food, water, warmth, whatever with you, because presumably within 3 days you can get to somewhere that's not affected. If you are sheltering in place, it's a personal choice. I do encourage people to have at least 14 days, preferably 30. I mean, we're not talking end of the world zombie apocalypse, 5 years worth of supplies. I mean, and if you want to do that, like, no shame to you, like, good for you to be able to do that. But I'm just saying, in terms of general preparedness, I do suggest people look at least 2 weeks at a bare minimum. 30 days is usually more comfortable. And here's the other thing. Let's say that you're in a situation where there's just a few people in your house, but you have extended family. If you're preparing for 30 days, you could potentially have family members come with you and have a comfortable 14 days for everybody. And most of the time, the situation, an emergency situation like this, is resolved within, 7 to 10 days. It doesn't usually tend to go on for weeks and weeks and weeks. Uh, but water is especially important. And I want to encourage everybody who's listening, please don't feel like your food solution is to go buy that big bucket of chemicals that they sell at the big box stores. One, because it's going to take up a lot of your water to rehydrate it. Two, it tastes bad. Three, it has so many ingredients that are not good for you. Like, that is just not a healthy choice.
Absolutely. And I think we should expand on that because we're going to talk about, you talked about water, we're going to talk about food, also medicines, right? Just
Yeah.
organizing these provisions in case you have to resort to that. But basically, clean food in a catastrophic event like we are exposed to, that's going to be a difficult decision because of so many chemicals added to foods. But what do you feel? How do you feel about canned foods like chicken breast, or maybe the pulled pork, or the not
Yeah.
necessarily pork and beans, things like sardines, tuna, things that you can just pry open and eat from a can if you don't have a burner, or if you don't have charcoal, or you can't start a fire or something to heat and cook these things. That's
Yeah.
that's I think we need to talk about it, because also if you got people with diabetes, I mean, like you said, you're not going to get one of these containers or a bunch of cookies or muffins, because that's what's probably going to be available at the store. Honey buns and things. It's
Yeah.
just crazy what types of foods go off the shelves when uh, the evacuation mandate is in effect.
I know. I'm
If you've
always,
ever been to the
I don't, yeah, I try really hard not to run to the grocery store before an emergency anymore. I try to have what we need on hand. Sometimes I will go if I'm like, we could use a little fresh produce to have that on hand. But it always makes me sad when I see people with boxes of like cereal and potato chips and things like that. I'm like, that is not going to nourish you, and that is not going to sustain you in a situation like this, you know?
you're hungry.
I am, yeah, and I am a fan of having canned goods on hand. Clearly, you want to read the label and make sure it's as clean as you can possibly get it. You also want to make sure you have an extra manual can opener. I actually have a can opener stored with I call it my overflow pantry, my canned goods. So I have one in my main kitchen, but there's one there as well. So you want to have a backup. And then I also am a fan of looking at things like it is possible to get canned vegetables that do not have a lot of negative ingredients in them. Typically, they are going to have some salt. So if you're someone who has some sodium issues, you do want to watch out for that, but that's not a bad thing. I'm also not opposed to having things like freeze-dried food options or dehydrated food options. You just have to plan for the water needed to rehydrate those. And to remember that you can actually cook on your barbecue grill if you have a propane grill. So you want to have an extra canister of propane, an extra 20-pounder. However, whatever pot you use is going to get really blackened on the outside. So it's
Yeah.
got a pot you're willing to sacrifice, but you can boil water on that. You can cook on that. We're so used to cooking on the grill, we forget that we can literally put a pot on that if we need to. And please, oh my gosh, this happened during the snowpocalypse. There were actually some people, sadly, who died because they chose to bring their propane grill inside because it was so cold to cook with. You do not want to do that. Those fumes are so dangerous for you. If the weather's really bad, you can bring it into your garage and have the garage door cracked and open. You need fresh airflow when you are cooking with that kind of a device.
A neighbor's house burnt down because, again, you bring that into the house and it can quickly catch fire.
Yeah.
His house burned down, but
Wow. I'm
it's
so
it's
sorry.
just so many things that we can account for and think outside the box. If you have a car, if you have gas in that car, maybe you can get an inverter, a power inverter, and just maybe plug in an electrical little grill, um, something to cook, something to heat things with.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely correct. I mean, there are some whole foods out there that you can have canned. They are not going to last as long as the traditional chemically, the
Mhm.
preservatives and other things that they add to that. They will not have that shelf life on your pantry, but they're always going to be better options for you.
And one
And
of the
also,
things, oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, also things that come in these cardboard, they call it Tetra Pak, the plastic, the containers, the milk, or the other things like bone broth, chicken broth, beef stock, things like that that can also come in handy.
And I was going to say that the goal, my purpose, so I teach a class to teach people how to build a preparedness pantry. And the goal is not to build that preparedness pantry and just have it sit there for 25 years. The goal is to utilize these things. So if you're buying a less chemical version of something that does not have a 25, maybe it's only got a 1 year shelf life or a 2 year shelf life, I encourage people write the date on top of the can so you can see when it's going to expire, but use it. Utilize it in what you're doing so that you make sure you have that regular rotation, because I also do preparedness pantry consultations for people. And it's really sad when I talk with someone and they're like, oh yeah, at the beginning of this event, we went out and we bought all this stuff. And then 5 years later, we found it at the back of the pantry and it was expired. Well, that's a waste of money and resources and food. Like, you should be eating that. You should not just be letting it sit there in the back till it's no good anymore.
Correct. You gotta recycle those things, whether they're vegetables or actual protein substitutes. You have to recycle that. And it's
Mhm.
all organizing. Organization skills are, we're not very keen on that nowadays, but you do have to prepare in the event just in case, because again, as adults, we have a lot of people that depend on us. So you have to make time and also get the kids involved and get the other family members involved, because that also prepares them. They're if they are our legacy when we're no longer available, right?
Yeah.
Might as well just go ahead and change that mindset and create those skills. But yeah, it's not just comfort food. It's not just Twinkies. It's not just honey buns and chips and all these other things, because
Right.
it's also the emotional aspect can get to us when, for example, right now, I was mentioning this because today is now Thursday. This is going on 4 days without electricity in certain parts of the grid here in Houston and the greater Houston area. So these are folks that can't even find a McDonald's open, because a lot of folks are using the Whataburger app to see what parts of the city actually have electricity, because the grid that CenterPoint is giving us is not very accurate. I don't know why, but I'm going to be biased on that. But basically, a lot of people are getting to the point with this heat. If you live in a house that is small or large, you don't have air conditioning, you're forced to sleep in those conditions, open up windows, mosquitoes, etc. So a lot of emotion come in play. So we're kind of going back to the times of COVID,
Yeah.
where people were forced to live and cope with each other for extended periods of time. So emotions can also cause us, that cortisol level can cause us to want to eat more. And then if we make the poorest choices in foods, like you mentioned, you're just going to get hungrier,
Yeah. Because you're
because where
not
the weight
nourishing
gain
your
comes in.
body. Right.
Right.
That's all. It's comfort, but it's not nourishment. And at a time like this, to stay sharp, to stay aware, to be resilient, we need to be nourishing our body. And as you mentioned earlier, protein is a huge part of that as well. We want to make sure we have good protein sources available. But we also want to make sure we have some variety in the diet. And there's nothing wrong with having, a little bit of chocolate or some kind of a sweet on hand. Sure, we all like that. It's not that we want to deny ourselves, but we do want to look at how are we actually going to nourish ourselves, and how are we going to be able to prepare for either staying in place for an extended time by ourselves or staying in place with other people for an extended time. Like you said, this is day 4, and I believe so. The notice that I got was that they would have approximately 50% restored by today. So we don't know how many more days it's going to be until the rest of the people come back online. But even after you come back online, that doesn't mean that everything's going to magically snap back to the way it was beforehand, because there's going to be supply chain issues. There's going to be rebuilding that's going to have to happen. That's going to impact trades. It's going to impact building resources. Like, there's a lot that's going to have to happen to pull this all back together.
That is the aftermath that we need to prepare for. And when's the best time to do it? Well, as soon as we get out of this, start getting ready for the next storm, which I think the tropics are already forming other things, other activity. But also going into the medical field, which is where I kind of I work more. We need to talk about things like medication. So who doesn't take meds, especially at a certain age with certain issues and health conditions that we have. We've got folks with diabetes, folks that are dependent on insulin, and they need to keep that refrigerated, maybe, hopefully.
Mhm.
You got to keep it away from sunlight. There's a reason why these are bottled in that amber bottle. You know, they're very sensitive to these hormones are very sensitive to sunlight, so they decompose quickly. They're not
Yeah,
going to be as effective. I used to
right.
do home health nursing and we'd go out to, very remote and rural areas, and I'd see folks with the insulin outside on their window, like, oh yeah, just use it. That's not the right way to do it. But then you wonder
Yeah.
why certain units of insulin don't bring the blood sugars down as they should. But a lot of things come in play, and if you don't have prepared for this, you don't have your
Yeah.
pill box, right? Your daily pill counter or your pill box for mom, for dad, for yourself, or whoever, maybe for one of your kids. You have an inhaler if they're asthmatic. Because again, when the hurricane comes through, it rages through maybe, 8, 12 hours, what have you. At the best weather for certain people is after that hurricane, right? It's so clear, so nice, so crisp. The moisture's out, but also a lot of the pollen is out also. So you've got kids with asthma, um, hyperreactive bronchitis folks. You have all these allergies, skin allergies that flare up. And if you
Mhm.
don't have, your inhalers, if you don't have maybe your epinephrine, it's just so many things you have to think about before actually, um, venturing into this. As far as medication, well, your blood pressure, you got to have your glucometer, you have your scripts. Because again, like we're talking about the food selections, that may spike hyperglycemia,
Yeah.
or sugar levels come up. And how will you know if you don't have a glucometer?
Right. And that's such an important point because you should have in a pulse ox, you should have a blood pressure cuff. There are like a lot of things you should do. And then to also keep in mind, even if you don't have a uh, you know, a condition that requires daily medication. For example, hurricanes tend to be really bad for people who are prone to migraines. That change in barometric pressure can really trigger something. So making sure that you have what you need on hand, or making sure you know how to take care of yourself depending on what's going on if you're responding to that. I've also seen literature that indicates that sometimes the storm pressure changes, especially for people who wind up going through the eye, can impact blood pressure. So there's just a lot of different things that happen, and that's where being personally responsible and learning how to take care of ourselves, because kind of, going back to what we were talking about before with the first responders, they're going to respond, they're going to triage highest level first, and where can they be most effective. So you can't guarantee that they're going to get to you. This is about being as self-reliant and as self-protective of yourself and your family as you can. And then it also means going one step further and having a conversation with your neighbors about what you're going to do. I was so delighted to hear stories coming in after the storm of neighborhoods that banded together to take care of clearing things and making it safe for everybody. It's not like everybody didn't sit in their house and go, oh, well, I'm going to wait for them to come take care of me. No, they got out there. They're like, we can clear this, we can do this. You obviously never if there's a downed electrical wire, and never if there's floodwater, because floodwater can be dirty, floodwater can be very dangerous. But if all the water's receded and if there's no down power lines, but there's a lot of debris or trees are down or whatever, there are things that you can come together as a community. And so it's great to have a plan. I'm always saying the best time to plan for an emergency is before there is one. And
Yeah.
another colleague of ours, Dr. Tamara Carr, her saying is better living through preparedness. Like
Yeah.
we just, if we have a plan, if we communicate in advance, and if we know what we're going to do, we're able to weather the storm better, and we are also able to be as proactive as possible to make sure that everybody gets through it as safely as they can.
That's correct. Absolutely. And it's just so many different things we have to account for. It crisis brings us together, especially in neighborhoods. And you, neighbor, how are you? Is this person responding? Some people don't open their doors after. right now, if no power, you can imagine how dark neighborhoods are. You got people walking the streets and you're like, what are you doing outside at 2 a.m. on my property? Well,
Yeah.
this is a case that's in the neighborhood right now. They encountered a gentleman that was walking around on people's lawns. We don't know for what reasons, but basically when he was confronted by a neighbor, he's like, what are you doing outside? It's not a good time to be doing this, young man. Well, I'm staying out of my car. It's just that I'm looking for mosquito spray. Well, there are not many mosquitoes right now. Many of them were blown away. But then when the gentleman went into his garage to get the mosquito spray, he went out, the guy wasn't there anymore. So it really
Mm,
leads you to think, these things, you have to think outside the box.
yeah.
Personal safety is important also. And just knowing who your neighbors are. Because
Sure.
we're so preoccupied with work and coming home and cutting the grass. But hey, neighbor, my name is, who lives in your house. Just these are very very good allies to have in the event of an emergency. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Prescription medication is very important. Remember, if you run out of meds, again, if you procrastinate, well, I'm going to see my doctor Monday, and the hurricane barreled through Monday morning. Your
Yeah.
doctor's not going to be there, or nor will he
And the
or she.
pharmacist isn't going to be there either.
Exactly.
They're not going to be behind the counter filling scripts.
Pharmacies are going to be closed. Your
Yeah.
doctor's office is going to be closed. So if you waited, tough luck. You're not going to go to the hospital. The hospital is usually like a safe place for many people. It
Mhm.
stopped being so when COVID hit, but that was a place for people to gather. It's not a Disney resort. So
Right.
Disney resorts are the places that have, like, they can withstand a category 5 or worse hurricane.
Yeah.
Hospitals are not Disney resorts. So you even though they have power, it's to keep, the folks that are hospitalized in better conditions, just to keep that up. It's
And
just
that's where planning ahead again is so important. For example, if you know you only have 4, 5, 6 days worth of medication left, and there is all of a sudden a storm warning, it is not unreasonable to contact your doctor and say, may I please have a vacation override? Because a lot of times, the insurance doesn't want to refill sooner than, I don't know, what is it, 3 days, I think, before you run out. Like it's very close. But if you're a week away, 8 days away, and you know there's a storm coming, you can ask for something called a vacation override and say, I'm worried about this storm. I don't have enough medication if I lose power. And the majority of the time, in my experience, they will write that for you because they understand that that's an extenuating circumstance.
correct. And it's important for your chronic conditions,
Yeah.
because again, you don't want to be sick and then have to be taken to a hospital when there's no first responders. And then when you get to the hospital's packed with people that have had emergent injuries, because that's something else. You want to walk in deep water. You don't know if there's, broken glass somewhere, or a tree limb's
Snakes.
going to scratch
There
your
can be
arm.
water snakes in that water.
Yeah,
And then
crocs.
the other thing that happens is, the water situation can get really challenging if the sewage system gets overloaded. Then we have bacteria, we can have dead animals, like all kinds of things can be in that water. So we do not ever go, and please don't ever think you can drive into floodwater. You have no idea how deep it is, and you can like damage your car.
The
And
saying
then
here, don't drown, turn around. But
yeah,
basically, you mentioned it. Imagine a freshly open wound, and then you have that sewer water in the vicinity. That's not going to fare well for you. So you have
yeah,
to really be smart about these things. You want to be able to visually inspect where you're going to step before you take that step. It's
yes,
very important. I mean, so many different things. It comes down to common sense, and common
yeah,
sense is not that common, as we say. But these are the times that you really have to test that. Another thing would be those important documents.
yeah.
Your birth certificates, all you need, insurance policies. Everything's in the cloud. Why not keep that on a USB drive and keep that somewhere safe? Maybe a Ziploc bag.
And
Keep
if you
that.
have paper copies, keep it in a waterproof pouch.
They sell those they sell those right now at Amazon. You can get that from many different places.
Yeah,
But yeah, first first aid kits. I mean,
yeah,
you can just get a first aid kit and have it. Things like bandages are very important. have some kind of antiseptic, triple antibiotic cream, ointments. It's just so many things that we can account for. But speaking of food and drink and beverages, that's that. Again, if we talk about fruits, I know fresh produce will come from where, it comes from where? Central America. So by the time it gets here, it's already spoiling. So by the time we get it at the stores and bring it to the house, 2 days and it's gone. But yes, it's good to have natural products. And just remember that our bodies can we can run on three things, which are carbohydrates, protein, and fat.
Yeah.
And then we have the essential nutrients, vitamins and minerals, but you want to balance that out. So when we
Sure.
go and get the comfort foods, that's mainly carbohydrates and bad stuff. So we want to be able
Well,
to balance that
and I
out.
will share for fruits, one of my favorite things to do. I encourage people to consider having, so I don't necessarily like the canned fruits because those have a lot of added sugar in them. But freeze-dried fruits are simply freeze-dried, and because they are picked at the peak of ripeness, flash frozen and then freeze-dried, they still maintain high nutrient value. So that can be a good way. And then same thing for vegetables. You can do freeze-dried vegetables very easily. And those are also going to be, a good source of nutrients and a good source of dietary rotation, and believe it or not, you can eat those. Like I have freeze-dried things in my house, and like I will eat the freeze-dried butternut squash as a snack. It's so delicious. And the bell peppers and all of that, like you can eat it without adding water to it. So that certainly is an option as well.
Well, these are a few of the tips that you're going to include in that workshop, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I have an upcoming workshop uh, on July 25th. And there will be a replay for anybody who doesn't make it to the live class. And it's called Real Food in an Emergency. So we are going to talk about that.
We're going to post those links on our websites for the clinics and on social media for personal
Thank you.
and for the business, so that people can become even more aware. And we
Yeah.
don't want to wait until this happens again, which is bound to. Sooner or later, we're going to have a stronger storm coming through, maybe a
Even
category
just
2,
another
3 this
storm.
season. Who knows?
Yeah.
Hopefully not another tornado,
Well, and
another freeze.
even just another storm. I mean, a number of years ago, 2 hurricanes in a row slammed into Puerto Rico. It took them months to recover just because before they recovered from the first one, they got hit by the second one. And as I'm always saying, the best time to plan for an emergency is before there is one. And again, we're talking about hurricanes because we're both in the Houston area, but wherever you live in the country, there is something that's going to happen. There is some kind of a natural disaster. And maybe it's not this year, maybe it's not next year, but you want to be prepared for that in advance. And the best time to start to plan is now.
Yes. Well, Mira, I think that our time's running low, and I want to thank you again for inviting me. And it's been very educational. I hope that your viewers and subscribers take some information, take it to heart, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you on that workshop.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. It was great to talk with you. And for everybody who's watching, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a good journey towards your preparedness planning for you and your family. All right.
Yes.
Well, thanks for
Thank
watching.
you all. Bye-bye and good luck.
Bye now.
Bye, Mira.